Probably the first time that I knew this trip was going to be different than any other trip I had ever taken was when I walked into the Compassion Center for the first time. Yeah, I'd been there 2.5 years before when it was rubble and construction and hard hats. But that first day we walked in and it was filled with laughter and smiles and 170 children. There was ladies in the kitchen cooking food for them to eat. There was teachers in the classrooms teaching children, and it was overwhelming to think that this place now built with kids running around and experiencing God's love and learning and growing would not have happened if it were not for a group of people 4,000 miles away who are willing to look beyond themselves. You know, when we got to the Compassion Center and began to hear some of the stories and began to do some of the home visits, it was interesting to hear that when Compassion first kind of got on the ground in Santa Rosa, a lot of parents were a little bit leery about having their kids jump into the Compassion Center and be a part of the program. There was lots of paperwork to fill out. Some of the parents were illiterate, and there began to be a rumor in Santa Rosa that these sponsors, half a world away, were really going to come and kidnap their children and even have their organs harvested. When I sat in the room with Jan, my sponsored child, and met his mother, Blanca, and heard their story, one of the things I said was that, in the United States, we see these commercials or these things on TV and we think, is there really a child there that we're going to sponsor? I said, you're real. And she said, we wonder if there's really a sponsor. And she said, you're real. And as we sat face to face, I heard a little bit of her story. Blanca had her husband, Jan's dad, leave them a couple years ago for another family. They were living in a small little house made mostly of plywood. And then 2 years ago, them, along with a number of other families in Santa Rosa, they lost their house due to some flooding. So now they're living with their parents, Jan's grandma and grandpa. They have one room, a sheet covering over the door. They share a bed. And as I thought about those children, as I thought about the steps they took to get into the Compassion Center, and then in that building, man, that would not have been possible if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for all of us together linking arms and caring for somebody half a world away. That our sponsorship is making a huge, huge impact. As you've heard today, I think one of the things that surprised our team the most, because I think most people go to that trip thinking about meeting their sponsored child, but the partnership that we have with the Compassion Center, with the church, and with how much that meant to them. How there isn't another group coming in another 2 weeks, and there aren't 7 groups coming this next year. It's us. And so they were waiting for us to come, and they see this partnership. And as we were on the ground, we see that partnership so clearly. Partnership with parents who have big dreams for their children. Partnership with a church as they reach out into their community, and partnership with a staff that is doing the work day in and day out that we're helping support. It was a beautiful thing to see this partnership in action. In Proverbs chapter 14, verse 21, it says this: "It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blessed is the one who's kind to the needy." You have shown kindness. You've shared kindness. You've spread kindness with those in Santa Rosa, with families who are making less than $2 a day, by tangibly caring for their children. What an incredible gift as we display God's love in that way. In 1 John chapter 3, verse 17 and 18, it says these words: "If anyone has material possession and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." You have displayed God's love by putting your money where your mouth is, by meeting real, tangible needs, by loving and caring for people in such a significant way. When we were getting ready to leave, the last day that we were with the center staff, we were out in the courtyard, and the Journey had given $1,500 from our Christmas offerings, had gone to them. Just 12 days earlier, they'd finished painting. It had been just kind of stark white through everything, and they'd painted all the kids' classrooms. They'd painted the courtyard, and it looked amazing. But they had left this one wall white and bare. And they had all these paints, and they wanted us to put our hands in the paint and then to put our hands on the wall. And the pastor said, as we were putting our hands on the wall, he said, "We want to have your hands on the wall because it was the hands of those who are part of the journey that have built that building, that have made that space for kids to encounter Jesus. Our hands help build that. And a community is being changed because of your generosity."